Sit with an upright spine, reaching the crown of the head lightly up towards the ceiling, letting the sitting bones release into the ground. Find a sense of spaciousness through the column of the spine between the sitting bones and the place where the skull balances on the top end of the spine. And if it's comfortable, you can soften your gaze or close your eyes completely so that you can just take a moment to fully arrive in this body, in this space right now. Maybe take a couple of deep breaths just to help you to settle, to help acknowledging maybe what feelings, sensations, emotions are present in your experience right now, just receiving them with a sense of openness. I've been talking about one of the yamas, those ways that we relate to other people that Patanjali describes in the Yoga Sutra, and particularly aparigraha, which means non-hoarding or not grasping. It means stepping away from our sort of very inherent sense of wanting to get more stuff, whether that's, physical things, material things, whether that's food, whether that's experiences, sensory input, stimulation. So the sutras say about aparigraha, or not grasping, this, and I paraphrase this sense of letting go, the sense of not holding on tightly, the sense of not wanting, unlocks the real purpose of existence. So there is quite a lot of inspiration in that. So how can we simply be inspired by the simplicity that this life has right now? And how can we recruit all the tools that we have at our disposal to meet uncertainty? So often what we want to achieve by accumulating things, accumulating relationships, is a sense of security, a sense of stability. And when that stability falls away and uncertainty opens, like it does now, we don't like that. So yoga is a great practice to connect to meeting that uncertainty without getting overwhelmed by it. And one way of doing that could be to simply attend a little bit more to a deep and generous breath. And that's what we'll do now. So we'll take a few rounds of expanding our breath. So some of you have done this week several times with me already. This is a good practice to do every day. So we'll start with a count of 3 for each inhale and each exhale, and slowly and gradually we'll build it up to a count of 7. And if you notice that along the way you feel that this is not comfortable for you anymore, you feel anxious or sort of restricted in your breathing, then just breathe normally. So you don't have to continue along all the way. So let's all start together. So let's start by just exhaling wherever you are in your own breath cycle. Exhale completely. And then inhale, 2, 3, exhale, 2, 3, inhale, 2, 3, exhale, 2, 3, inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Take a big inhale and a big exhale. And then just pause for a moment and notice how you're feeling. Notice how this practice of breathing deeply, deliberately has affected you. Don't worry if you notice any effect at all. We're just checking in. We're just curious. If you're sitting cross-legged, change the crossing of the legs. Otherwise, you can just stay just where you are. Take an inhale and reach the arms all the way up and overhead. Lengthen the sides of the waist. Hold on to the left wrist with the right hand. Exhale, take a side bend to the right. Inhale, come back up and change hands. Exhale, side bend to the left. Inhale, come back up, change hands. Exhale, side bend to the right. Keep the left sitting bone really heavy. Inhale, come back up, changing hands. Exhale, side bend to the left, keeping the right sitting bone really heavy. And then inhale, come all the way up to center. And exhale, release your arms down by your side. And then make your way to an all fours position. And if your knees are sensitive, you could have a blanket along the sort of second half of your mat, and you could keep the blanket here throughout the practice to support your knees. Tuck your toes under, bring your wrists underneath your armpits, spread your fingers lightly. Take an inhale and tip the pelvis forward, roll the shoulder blades down the back, hug the elbows back, and then exhale, point your toes and round the spine, pushing the floor away, gather the navel in. Tuck the toes under, tipping the pelvis forward for the cow pose, the little mini back bend, soft elbows. Exhale, point the toes, round the spine, a little bit of an engagement through the abdominals. Tuck your toes, tipping the pelvis, inhaling, lifting the heart forward, rolling the shoulders back. And exhale, point your toes and round the spine. You could always stay here, or if it feels okay, press into the tops of the feet, lift your knees an inch off the ground, or maybe 2, but not much. Keep pressing down through the hands, keep lifting through the center of the spine, so you're lifting the navel up towards the spine and the abdominals are engaging as you're still rounding. And then take an inhale and bring the knees to the floor. Tuck your toes under, and then exhale, walk your hands forward a touch, lift the hips, come into a downward facing dog. Take an inhale and bend your knees deeply and lift the heels high. And then exhale, let the heels drop down a little more, lift the sitting bones up and back a little more. Inhale, bending the knees, moving the chest back towards the thighs. Exhale, extend the legs a little bit more. Keep broadening the shoulder blades. Inhale, bend the knees, last round of this. And then exhale, drop the heels, extend the legs. Then bring your knees all the way to the floor. Walk your wrists in so that they're directly underneath your armpits. And then take an inhale and lift the right leg back and up behind you so it's parallel with the floor.
And exhale, take the right knee to the nose and round the spine. Inhale, extend the right leg back and up behind you, and the gaze could be slightly in front of the mat. And exhale, rounding the spine, and the gaze moves towards the back of the mat. Inhale, extend the right leg. Exhale, take the knee into the chest and round the spine. Inhale, extend the leg. And now exhale, bend the knee so the sole of the foot faces the ceiling. And then do a little bit of a tapping action. So the sole of the foot presses up and releases down pretty swiftly, not synchronizing this with the breath. And if this is too much for your back, then just stay on all fours, both knees down, and that's fine. But this is some glute strengthening work. Take an inhale. And then exhale, bring the top knee to the nose. Stay here, or if you can, with the left toes tucked, lift the left knee off the floor, and you're in a single-legged plank position with the right knee still very close to the nose. Try and get the two as close together as possible. Get the shoulders forward over the fingernails. And then inhale, lift the right leg up behind you. Come into a tripod dog, shifting the hips back a touch. And then exhale, bring the right foot down, come into downward facing dog. Take an inhale, bringing the knees to the floor. Exhale, check that your wrists are underneath the armpits. Inhale, lift the left leg back and up behind you, press the heel away. Exhale, take the knee to the nose and round the spine. Inhale, extend the right leg back. You could flex, the left leg. You could flex the foot here. Exhale, left knee towards nose, rounding the spine. Inhale, extending the left leg. The gaze could be forward. Exhale, knee into the chest, and the gaze could be back. Inhale, extend left leg. And this time, exhale, bend the knee. And then to strengthen the glutes, a little bit of a tapping action. So this is for the left glute. And again, if this puts too much pressure on the back, then you keep both knees down. Otherwise, there is a little bit of openness through the heart. There's a little sort of mini back bend in the upper part of the spine. And then with your next exhale, take the top knee to the nose, round the spine, push the hands down, and then lift the back knee off the ground so that you're now in a single-legged plank. If that's too much, the right knee stays on the ground. Get the shoulders a little bit further forward over the fingernails and see if you can contract and gather in a little bit more. Then take an inhale and lift the left leg up behind you, tripod dog. And exhale, take the left foot down, downward facing dog. Take an inhale and walk your feet forward towards the hands. Take an exhale and fold into a forward bend. And shake out the head, yes, no, just hanging here for a moment with the arms heavy, the shoulders completely relaxed. And just also reminding yourself to modify your practice to your needs and to listen more than to look, so that you can keep that sort of internal aspect of practice and that you're not putting your neck in weird positions. Bend your knees deeply. Take an inhale and reach the arms forward and up. Come into a chair pose. Stay here for a moment. Draw the lower ribs down towards the pubic bone. Trusting the legs, the strength and power of the legs supporting you in this. Shifting the sitting bones back a little bit more, maybe. And then with the inhale, stand up, reach the fingers up towards the ceiling. Hold on to the left wrist with the right hand. Exhale, lean over to the right. Inhale, come up, change hands. Exhale, lean to the left. Inhale, coming back up, changing hands. Exhale, lean to the right. Stay here. If you can bring the left tiptoes to the floor, maybe even lift the left leg off the ground. Take an inhale, come back up, change hands, and exhale, lean to the left. Staying here is great. Ground it through both feet, or take the right tiptoes to the floor and maybe lift the right leg out to the side. Still breathing. And then with the inhale, come up.
And with the exhale, release the hands to the heart. You can lower the chin for a moment. You can even close the eyes if that's comfortable, and just take a moment to notice after those first few movements what it may be that you need from this practice right now. What do you need from this to support yourself? And then give yourself just that. It's your own practice. I'm just giving some general guidance. Release your arms down by your side. Starting at the front of the mat, we'll do some sun salutations. Inhale, reaching the arms all the way up, and the head could follow if that's comfortable for the neck. Then exhale, tip the pelvis forward, soften the knees, fold into a forward bend. Take an inhale and lift halfway, maybe slipping the hands onto the shins. And then fingers down, bend the knees, step the right foot to the back of the mat. Plant your hands flat. Inhale, come into a plank position. Exhale, chaturanga, breastbone moves forward. Keep the heels and the shoulders back. And then inhale, cobra or upward dog, lifting the heart. Elbows are soft. And exhale, downward facing dog. Finding your breath in downward dog. Can we play a little bit with softening the elbows and hugging them back and then hugging them in towards each other? Can you play a little bit with finding more space through the spine? Maybe pressing the hands into the ground a little more, particularly the base of the index finger and the thumb, so that the energy travels upwards and backwards, so that there is more weight in the legs, not as much weight in the shoulders and arms. At the end of the exhale, soften the knees, look ahead. Step, walk or hop forward, lengthen the spine. Inhale. Exhale, fold forward, relax the head down completely. Bend your knees. Inhale, come into a chair pose. The palms face each other. Shift the sitting bones back. And then exhale, stand up. Release the arms down by your side. And again, inhale, floating the arms all the way up, simply enjoying breathing and moving. Exhale, tipping the pelvis forward, knees can be soft here. Inhale, lift and lengthen the spine and actively roll the shoulders back. Exhale, fingers down, step the left foot to the back of the mat. Hands flat, inhale, come into a plank pose. And of course, the knees could always be on the ground here. Exhale, breastbone forward, chaturanga. Keep the navel lifted away from the ground. And then inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Take it back. You're very welcome to keep your knees bent here. See if you can play with the balance of spaciousness and stability. So we can use this practice, this physical practice, to create some sense of stability through our body. And this will help. This will have an effect on our felt mental stability. So this is one way of supporting ourselves in times of instability and times of uncertainty. At the end of the exhale, soften the knees, look ahead, step, walk or hop forward, lengthen the spine, inhale. And exhale, fold into a forward bend, neck is long. Bend your knees deeply, inhale, come into a chair pose, shift the sitting bones back, draw the lower ribs down. And then exhale, stand up and release the arms down by your side and soften the shoulders away from the ears. And then inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Exhale, fold forward. Breathe in and lengthen the spine. And then breathe out, chaturanga. Take your feet back, bend the elbows, shoulders never lower than elbows. Inhale, choose your back bend, upward dog or cobra. Exhale, come into downward facing dog. Take an inhale here. Exhale, bring the knees to the floor, walk the hands back a touch so the wrists are underneath the armpits. Take an inhale and lift the right leg back behind you, straight leg.
And then exhale, bend the right knee. And then either stay here. If this is too much for the back, keep both knees down. If you want to experiment with balance, lift the left arm back and up by your side. If this all works out really well, you can catch the top foot with the opposite hand, left hand to right foot or ankle. And then the bottom elbow stays soft and hugs in towards the midline, so you're not locking into this arm. The bottom elbow, the top elbow can have a little bit of softness. And then to come out of this, release the left hand, take the right knee into the chest, round the spine. This is the counter pose. Again, if you can, lift the back knee, which is the left knee, off the floor, round the spine, and you're in this single-legged plank with one knee close to the nose. Try and get the knee and the nose a little closer to each other. And then inhale, tripod dog. Float the right leg up behind you. And exhale, step the right foot forward inside the right hand. Bring the back knee down, and you could certainly use some padding for the back knee. You may want a stack of books or a brick. Walk your hands over to your left, and then bring the left hand flat, sort of in line with your hip. So it's quite far back, and it's certainly way outside of your mat. Pressing down into the hand, take the right hand to the inner right thigh so that you can check that the legs are staying aligned to the midline of your mat and not following you over to the left. Either stay here or take the right arm up and over into a side stretch. And I always really like to play with bending the bottom elbow deliberately and hugging it back in towards the body. So that means that the bottom shoulder stays away from the ear. It's free, it's not compressed, not shrugging up towards the ear. And then exhale, release both hands down. Walk your hands back onto your mat. You could keep the brick underneath the left hand or remove it, pressing down into the left hand, lift the back knee, lift the right arm up towards the ceiling. It could be more at a diagonal if that's better for the shoulder. So make it work for yourself. If there's quite a lot of room to move, you could try and keep the hips level, bring the lower side rib cage closer to the front thigh, and open the top arm back and up behind you a little bit more. So there are always many variations. And then exhale, release the top hand down. Stacks of books or bricks could be helpful. Step the back foot a little bit closer, get the sole of the back foot flat to the floor for Parsvottanasana, and then straighten both legs as much as you can. So the action here is to move the right hip back and up, and then move both hips back and up a little bit more. And of course, if the hamstrings are very tight, you take either a higher padding underneath the hands, or you soften the front knee more. And then can you also keep your spine straight, spacious, reaching the breastbone forward, and eventually allowing the head to soften down somewhat. So the chin comes in, the neck is long. And then take an inhale and lengthen the spine, soften the front knee. Exhale, walk your hands, maybe you're on fingertips or maybe you have padding underneath the hands, forward, then lift the back leg up. So you're in a standing split position. Try and actively lift up through the outer right hip so that you're not collapsing into the standing leg. If you can take the right hand to the ankle, if that feels comfortable, go for it. The left hand could be just opposite the right foot. Sometimes, and particularly if the hamstrings are tighter, it can be interesting to try balancing with both hands on the ankle and just explore that. Or on the, it doesn't need to be the ankle, could be the shin. Take an inhale and lengthen the spine. Exhale, step the top foot to the back of the mat. You could come straight back to downward dog, or you could take a vinyasa, and you could do that by lifting the right leg. So it's a single-legged vinyasa if you feel interested in that. And then exhale, a single-legged chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog, both feet touch the ground. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take a big inhale through the nose, and then take an exhale through the mouth. Again, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And then breathe in through the nose and keep breathing through the mouth with the exhale. Keep breathing through the nose with the exhale. Bring your knees down. And then walk your hands back so the wrists are underneath the armpits. And then same thing on the other side. So lift the left leg back and up behind you. And bend the left knee. Staying here is great. Or if it seems to be accessible, you could reach the right arm back, with or without catching the foot or ankle. I like to keep my bottom toes tucked under for stability. You may prefer something else. You may prefer some padding underneath the knee. And then can you soften the bottom elbow? Hug it towards center. Press the top foot up into the hand. Breathing in. And to release, take the knee into the chest, both hands come down opposite each other, rounding the spine. And then if you can, lift the back knee off the ground. So you've now shifted into a single-legged plank with the left knee getting closer and closer to the nose as you're contracting your abdominals, the shoulders are way forward. And then inhale, lift the left leg up behind you, tripod dog. And exhale, step the left foot forward, inside the left hand. Bring the back knee down. Feel free to use padding there. Walk your hands over to the right side and place your right hand in line with the right hip, way off your mat. And then the left hand comes to the inside of the left thigh and you're lengthening the torso away from the legs. So the torso is perpendicular to the legs. And if it feels comfortable, top arm comes up and overhead. Bottom elbow bends and softens back towards the body. And that will bring the shoulder back and sort of the shoulder blade down and in a little bit more. And then exhale, release, take both hands down. Walk your hands back onto the mat, maybe still with padding underneath the right hand. Lift the back knee off the ground. Lift the left arm up towards the ceiling. See how it is. Maybe the top shoulder would prefer the arm to be more to the side than up, and that's fine. And maybe there's more room to move, then the lower side rib cage can hug towards the front thigh a little bit more, and you're opening up in space. So do what feels comfortable, what feels enjoyable. Release your hands back down. Step the back foot a little bit closer and straighten both legs. Even stacks of books underneath the hands, or for some people, fingertips reach the floor. Lifting the left hip back as you elongate that left leg, and then moving both hips back equally as you come into Parsvottanasana, pyramid pose. And the chin comes in, the neck is long, and the fingers could walk as far forward as you can to encourage an expansion of the spine at the same time. Then take an inhale and lengthen the spine and soften the front knee. Exhale, shift your hands further forward in whichever way is useful so that you can then lift the back leg off the ground. It doesn't matter how high it lifts. Actively lifting up through the outer left hip. Maybe take the left hand onto the left ankle. Maybe take both hands onto the shin or wherever you can reach on that leg and just explore balance. Then with an inhale, lengthen the spine, roll the shoulders back. And with the exhale, step the top foot to the back of the mat, hands flat. You could come straight into downward dog. You could come straight to rest from here, or a vinyasa, maybe with a single-legged plank. Left leg lifts back and up behind you. Exhale, single-legged chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, both feet on the ground. And then take it back into downward facing dog. Take an inhale and exhale through the mouth. Inhaling through the nose, and then stick your tongue out as you exhale. One more time like this, lion breath. Inhaling through the nose, exhale through the mouth, stick your tongue out. Good, and then breathe in, bring your knees to the floor, maybe with padding underneath. Lift your sitting bones up to the ceiling. Walk your hands towards the front of the mat, maybe even past the front of the mat. Try and keep your arms straight, your elbows lifted away from the ground. And then take an inhale and contract your abdominals so the lower back rounds. You're lifting yourself away from the ground a little more. Exhale, soften the chest down. Inhale, contracting, lifting and gathering in. And exhale, soften the chest down towards the ground. Inhale, contracting. This is strengthening the core. And then exhale, drop down, softening the shoulders. Then pluck your elbows into the floor and bring the shoulders over your elbows. Then lift your knees off the ground. If this is a little bit much for your energy level today, keep your knees on the floor. So this is a forearm plank. See if you can lift the space between the shoulder blades up a little bit more. The forearms are parallel with each other. The tailbone deliberately lengthens towards the heels. And then exhale, release the hips down. Come into a Sphinx pose. And I hope that for most of you, you can see me in this shape, so you can watch me for a moment. I'm going to shift the right elbow forward, roll onto our right side and support the head with a hand. Then we're going to lift one leg, maybe hold that leg. Then stay there for a few moments, and then we're going to backtrack and bring the elbow underneath the armpit to lift up into a forearm side plank for those who wish. So slide the right elbow forward, roll onto the right outer leg, place your right hand underneath the head. And you can flex your feet, lift the left leg up. It's actually a little tricky to balance. If you can catch the leg with a hand, maybe you can encourage the leg to come a little bit closer to you. If you roll onto your back, do not worry. Then release the top leg down, press into the left hand to lift yourself up and gather the right elbow underneath the armpit. Make a soft fist with the right hand. The right forearm is at about 45 degrees. Press the forearm down, move the shoulder away from the ear. You could stay here or lift the hips off the ground. If this is working, you could lift the free arm up. If you feel very happy here and feel like experimenting, you could lift the top leg up as high as you like. It's entirely up to you. And then come down, come into Sphinx, and then shift your left elbow forward, roll onto the left side, lift the top leg up. The left hand supports the head, staying here, or maybe taking the free hand off the floor to help get the leg a little closer. Doesn't matter where you get with this. The hip will open a little bit, so the toes will maybe start to face the head a little bit more. So there's an external rotation in that top thigh. Then release, press the top hand down and gather the left elbow underneath your shoulder. Make a soft fist with the left hand. The key action is to increase the space underneath your armpit. Pressing the forearm down, flexing your feet, maybe lifting up, or maybe just pressing the forearm down and keeping the hips down. If you have space to lift the right arm up, go for it. If there's interest to lift the top leg up, go for it. And then eventually come back down. And let's take a little counter stretch. Lift the arms back and up by your side. Lift the chest. If it's comfortable, you could interlace your fingers, soften the elbows, lifting the arms away from the body, neck free. You're welcome to lift the legs if you want to. Shalabhasana. And then exhale, release. And take the hands underneath the shoulders and bring your feet wider so that the feet are now outside of your mat. Maybe the knees are as wide as the mat. You see how you go. And then pressing the hands down lightly, but more than that, use your back muscles to lift the torso up. And then you come into a cobra pose. And you could take this, keep this very low, or you could lift higher, depending on how this feels, making sure the elbows are soft and they're hugging in towards the body. Do not tolerate pain in the lower back. Think about lifting and expanding the upper part of the spine. The gaze is down, even if the chin lifts. And then soften down. Bring the big toes towards each other and shift back into a child's pose. Take a deep breath into the lower back. Take a deep exhale to soften and release all tension. Then come back to all fours. Bring the knees back to hip distance and tucking the toes, come into downward dog. Now, we're going to come back into a sort of half bow shape like we did on all fours. And if you would like to repeat it on all fours, lifting one leg and the opposite arm, you could. It's sort of really much trickier from downward dog, but you could try. One thing that may help a little is make your downward dog stance a little shorter than usual, maybe an inch or two shorter. Angle the left heel in slightly and aim to get as much of the left sole of the foot to the ground for balance. Then lift the right leg up behind you. And then you could just experiment. Is it possible to slide the left fingertips halfway down the mat, or maybe even lift the left arm up? Is it possible to look forward, bend the top knee, and catch the opposite foot with a hand? Remember, you could be on all fours here with the left knee down. Pressing the foot into the hand, gaze forward, chest forward, and then exhale, left hand down. Step the right foot way forward, and then bring the back knee down. And we're back in our crescent lunge stance. And this time we keep it centered, walk the hands onto the front knee. You can sort of back off a little bit, lift the frontal hip bones up, shift your hips back a little bit, and then take the hands onto the lower back. So the weight of the body is shifting back. The hands come onto the lower back. And if you feel interested, if it seems to be a reasonable idea, the left hand could come onto the left heel, and then the right arm could reach back behind you, and you lift both sides of the rib cage, maybe even straightening the front leg a little bit more just for a moment. And then inhale, come back up. And we're going to take it into a twist. You could have left hand down, lift the right arm up, or you could take the left elbow to the outside of the right thigh, back knee down or back knee lifted. Place your hands together, pressing the top hand down to lift the top shoulder up. And then exhale, release down. Bring the back knee down again. And again, you can always use padding. It could just be a small piece of clothing here. Shift the right foot out to the right side. Shift the right foot off your mat. And for the next one, it's going to be really useful to have a stack of books or something brick-like, unless you have very long arms. So you don't need two stacks necessarily. You can use the same stack of books for both hands. You're welcome to stay here, maybe exploring shifting the front foot forward a little bit and letting the back thigh roll in. Or if it seems to be a reasonable idea, tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee off the ground. Staying here, or back knee down first, shift the front foot forward, then lift the back knee off the ground. And you're in a sort of splits variation where the front foot comes out to the side, which makes it easier for the hips to come down. For most people, not for everyone, for some people it's harder in this way. So mind your hamstrings, stay tuned in to how things feel in the body, and make sure you have a firm support underneath the hands to not collapse into the pose. Then lift the pelvic floor, lift the belly in, and backtrack. Bring the front foot further in. Place your hands on the floor, and then eventually step back into downward facing dog. Take a breath here, and remember, you could do the half bow with your knees down if that worked quite all right. You could skip this part altogether, or step your feet a little closer to the hands, then angle the right heel in so the sole of the right foot is flat on the floor, then lift the left leg up. So the angle of the bottom foot doesn't need to be very steep, just an encouragement to get more of the sole of the foot down. Right hand can slide down the mat, maybe even lift off the mat, or bend the top knee, keep the knees centered. Don't let it splay to the side. Don't open up the hip. Otherwise, you'll likely lose your balance. Looking forward, pressing the top foot into the hand. And then eventually, right hand down, step the left foot way forward. Bring the back knee to the ground, maybe placing padding underneath the knee. Walk the hands onto the front thigh, lifting the frontal hip bones up, and backtrack a little bit and probably make your stance a little bit shorter. So you almost have sort of 90-degree angles going through the legs. Hands to the lower back, lift the heart, and with your hands at the lower back, lengthen the lower back. Stay here, or right hand to right heel, left arm up behind you. Lift both sides of the rib cage equally, finding some symmetry in this very asymmetrical pose. And then to come out, take an inhale, and then the right arm lifts, and take the elbow to the outside of the thigh with the exhale. And then with or without the back knee on the ground, pressing the palms together. So twists are great counteractions for the back bends. See if you can lean back towards the center line of the mat a little bit more. Good, lovely guys, beautiful. And then exhale, release down. Unravel, take your hands inside the front foot. Shift the front foot just to the outside of the mat, and also shift the front foot forward a little bit. Take useful padding underneath your hands. Staying here is great, working with this lizard shape, allowing the back thigh to rotate inwards. Or you could tuck the back toes, lift the back knee to make it a stronger lizard shape. Or you could bring the back knee down first, shift back a little bit, then bring the front heel further out and forward. So the leg is sort of at an angle, traveling outside of the mat. And then maybe again, lifting the back knee off the ground. There is a lift through the pelvic floor throughout this, a lift through the lower abdomen, so that you're staying buoyant in the pose. And you can regulate how much pressure you put on the hip or on the hamstring. And then to come out of this, really pressing the hands down into the support, gathering the navel in to slide the front foot back, lift the back knee, and then step back into downward facing dog. Bring your knees to the ground, and then slide your feet to one side, the hips to the other side, and sit down, sliding your legs forward. So the lunges that we did and the split position, they really work to open the front body, the psoas, the hip flexors at the top of the thighs, the quads to an extent, and we need that openness to access back bending. So yes, we need to work a lot on opening the upper part of the body, the upper part of the spine, but also we need to work on the openness in the legs. So let's come down, and we can take a couple more back bends here from the ground if you feel like it. If you feel that you've had plenty of back bends for one session, then you could simply drop the knees in towards each other and lie here and rest.
Otherwise, pressing the feet into the floor, lifting the hips, rolling the shoulders under, maybe interlacing the hands underneath you if that feels comfortable. And try and keep your thighs parallel with each other. So let the inner thighs drop down. Keep the base of the big toes on the ground. And then exhale, come down. Feet as wide as the mat, hands could rest on the body, drop the knees in. If this is not comfortable for the knees, keep the legs parallel. And we do 2 more back bends. And again, if you'd rather not do any more back bends, then stay here. You could spend the next round of back bending taking your knees into the chest, hugging them with your hands or your forearms. Otherwise, press your feet down, lift the hips, and either stay here, maybe interlacing the fingers in the unusual manner, or place the hands by the ears, hug your elbows in, and then either bring the crown of the head to the floor and explore lifting the hips from there, or lift the head off the ground, straighten the arms more. Keep the feet parallel, whichever variation you're taking. You keep moving the tailbone towards the direction of the backs of the knees or the space above the toes. The shoulders over the wrists. And to come down, tuck the chin if you're all the way up, landing lightly. And you could have your feet wide, knees in, or place the soles of the feet together, take the knees out wide now. And if you're not back bending anymore, for the next round, you could take a happy baby pose, bringing the soles of the feet up to the ceiling and the knees close to the armpit and releasing the sacrum to the floor. If you have one more back bend in you, then feet parallel, pressing down through the feet, lifting the hips, staying here, or coming all the way up. And then wherever you are, bridge pose or upward facing bow pose, there's the option to do a single-legged version if you feel like it. And it can help to step the feet a little closer, take one knee into the chest, extend the leg up to the ceiling, press your hands down. Come down, swap sides. The standing foot a little closer to midline. And then release your feet down. Make your way down slowly. Soles of the feet together, knees wide, or anything else that feels comfortable. And then eventually bring the knees into the chest, lift the legs, lift the arms, circle your wrists, circle your ankles. And take the knees into the chest, taking the sacrum towards the ground, a little bit of rocking side to side. Keep the right knee in, place the left foot on the floor, and if it's comfortable for you, let the left leg extend long so that it's resting on the ground, or the heel is on the ground at the front end of the mat. And then with your left hand, take the right knee over to the left side. And if this feels like quite a strong twist, I suggest you bend both knees and you lift them pretty high up towards the left shoulder, and then you can hold the knees with one hand, and maybe one leg is lifted or both legs are lifted, so you can let them hover. If you have something to place underneath, that's fine. Otherwise, a single-legged asymmetrical or more asymmetrical version of this, with the left leg still straight and the right leg coming over, easing the right shoulder into the ground. It may well not touch the ground. It's not likely to touch the ground, but can you soften it? And if it feels a bit strained there, then take the right hand down and bring the fingers onto the hip, maybe the elbow onto the floor, so that there is no strain in the shoulder. You could turn the head over towards the right shoulder if that's comfortable. And then take an inhale and come back to center and place the right foot flat on the floor for a moment. Shift the sacrum towards the floor, bring yourself to center. Then take the left knee into the chest, and you can squeeze it in with both hands for a moment, releasing the lower back into the ground. And again, if it feels comfortable, let the right leg straighten, heel on the ground. And then with the right hand, take the left knee over and to the right side. And if this is quite a strong twist for you, I suggest you bend both knees and you gather the knees close to the belly. And then any support you can give the left shoulder. Maybe that means taking the left hand onto your hip, getting the elbow close to the body. If the shoulder feels happy, you could turn the head to the left. This will likely accentuate the twist even more. Can you soften into that? Let go of holding on tightly. Just release. Don't cling, don't grasp. And then slowly come back. Placing the left foot on the floor for a moment, and also place the right foot on the floor. And just adjust your body so that it feels pretty much symmetrical on the mat, aligned with the center line of the mat, the arms a good distance away from the body. And you could stay here, dropping the knees towards each other. If you have a bolster or a few cushions, you could place them underneath the legs as you straighten the legs. Or maybe you prefer lying flat in Shavasana, a blanket underneath the head, a soft blanket could feel nice. Some people may prefer finishing the practice in a seated position, and this is also great. So make yourself comfortable, make sure you're warm enough. Support yourself in the best possible way. Just acknowledging that this is the care you can give yourself right now. And this is really essential care. This is how we can support an inner stability. This is how we can meet challenges. This is how we can support an increased resilience inside ourselves. Resting deeply into that space that is supported and nurtured by yourself. Allowing yourself to soften into that entirely. Resting quietly, and then we'll bring you out of this in a couple of minutes. Start to gently deepen your breathing. And imagine that the exhale can carry away any tension, whether it's physical or emotional. Each exhale just drains away anything that we don't need right now. If you're lying down, you could move your fingers and your toes. And wherever you are, you could reach the arms up and overhead and take a deep inhale to stretch yourself out. Maybe even pausing the breath at the top of the inhale for a moment. And then exhale, soften and release completely. If you're lying down, bring your feet closer to you, roll over to your left-hand side or rock up to sit, whatever is more comfortable. Eventually, let's all meet in a seated position, supporting the sitting bones if you can on a prop. And then place your palms together in front of the heart. And you can gently let the forehead come down towards the fingertips. And just take a moment to acknowledge how you feel right now. Openness and honesty. Just present. Everything is allowed to be just as it is. Namaste.